everybody. Welcome. My name is Mark Casto. I'm Product Success Manager here at ServiceNow. And today we're here to talk about measuring and optimizing your application portfolio. So as we go through today, there might be forward-looking statements that are based off our beliefs. And if we make any of these, it is our best knowledge at the time, but there's no guarantee that it will happen when we're talking about future feature sets and capabilities. So we have to present you with this safe harbor notice. Want to advertise ourselves. So this webinar and a whole series of webinars that are here to help you learn more about ServiceNow, get more out of your products. Click on the little QR code or go up to the community and look for live on ServiceNow. We have all kinds of things going on. We try to do these pretty much once a month. So in fact, later this week, we've got another one. Today is on APM. We got one on resource management and SPM just 2 days from now. So we're going to have the format of this. We're going to have quite a bit of time at the end for Q&A. And if you'll use the Q&A button at the bottom to ask your questions, some of them we're going to go live. We're going to let you talk if you want to, or you could just ask it. The rest of my team is on with me. Justin and Rob and Shawan are here with me to help answer the questions as we go. This thing is going to be recorded and shared, so you can always watch it after it. And we have a community article, kind of a landing place for this. I'll talk about that in a moment. And at the end, we have a little short survey. Ask you to please give us your feedback. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us where we can improve. We welcome your feedback. So today, I'm Mark Casto. I'm a Principal Product Success Manager for the Strategic Portfolio Management Product Suite. Rob and Justin, you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hey, this is Rob Erickson. Yeah, I'm also a product success manager, and I'll be helping Mark out by answering some questions in the Q&A.
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Mark. Justin Catchings, product success manager based out of Munich, Germany, and looking forward to supporting the session today.
Yeah. And just a little context, I'm in the southern United States, Rob's up north, and Justin is over in EMEA. So you got coverage for half the world, but we're here to help you. Our whole job is to help our customers get value out of our products. So I want to start with a little poll just to get a feel. So is your company performing some sort of a app rationalization process today? And where are you at? Looks like most everybody is that's answered is doing a something that doesn't cover the whole inventory, but it's great. You're doing something, and this is where we're leading. All right. And so 28% haven't started, 53% has something going on. 12% are using ServiceNow. Thank you. It's wonderful. We want to share with everybody today. And 7% are doing app rat outside in an external tool. So our next question is, if you're doing app rationalization, how mature are your metrics? How deep have you gone? How expressive are they? Okay. So, results is mostly low maturity, subjective. I'll tell you from my experience in working with this stuff over the years, subjective is a great place to start. And actually, it is very important. It's a facet of your enterprise systems that you need to understand. The subjective point of view, customer satisfaction, biz value, all of that. Those are important attributes, as important as some of your objective ones. So thank you for that. So the objectives today is to understand the current out-of-box metrics and just how they work. One of the things we talk about app rationalization a lot with APM, and we've done demonstrations of it and the abilities in enterprise architecture workspace. But how do you get there? How do you get these metrics? Today, we're focusing on the metrics and in APM terms, it's an indicator. We're going to talk about the indicator, also the scoring capabilities, but a score is really just a special indicator, if you will. So we're hoping that we help you understand how to define your metrics and build them, get them built and in production, define a roadmap to improve them, and continuously improve in the end your rationalization and evaluation capabilities. All of this, we've built a community resource. It's an article up on ServiceNow community, measure your application inventory with indicator and scoring framework. And we put some content up there about the current state, the indicators that exist, et cetera. But more importantly, this will be a place where we're going to post examples. And in fact, if you want to ask, how can I do this? How can I do that? We'll try to help you. This will kind of be a place for the community to gather. So I wanted to point that out. I'll come back to this. And this will be available to you as a PDF. So in order to improve, you start by measuring. We want to be able to do apples to apples comparisons with your enterprise systems, your business applications. Metrics can be a mix of subjective and objective, as we mentioned earlier. The information exists in ServiceNow, and that could be via an integration. So maybe the source of information is really external, but in integrations, they're not that hard to get in place. And so it could come from an external source. But from that, you can derive a metric or an indicator. So the indicator framework starts really thinking of it starts with the service graph, all of this information that is in ServiceNow. And so we call it the service graph. Everybody's familiar with CSDM and all of this interconnectivity, the CMDB core data, performance analytics, and over here on the side, you see we got assessments. That's a facility. And then we have 4 key kinds, and actually there's another type of indicator which consumes indicators. We'll talk about all of these in a moment, but here's our indicators. These are a way to pull particular information. It could be a query indicator, which is just querying off a table, custom script. You can do about anything you imagine. If you have performance analytics already configured and indicators in that, we can turn that into a APM indicator. And then of course, there's the assessment for the subjective. That all feeds into a scoring profile. It's a weighted sum of each indicator's value. So each indicator delivers you a score. That score gets a weighting from the scoring profile, and you end up with your overall score. The design properly implemented should give you a consistent score across your business applications. And it's really there just so that you can speed up your rationalization process. This is all tools to get to rationalization, evaluation, and management of that inventory. So there's some key concepts. I'm just going to cover them real quick. Indicators, that's a metric. Data source, what kind of data sources? Assessments, performance analytics, custom script, query condition, then finally indicators, which allows you to, at least in a two-layer hierarchy. In other words, you can have a parent indicator that has child scores. It won't do a full hierarchy. That's something that we hope to see as an improvement as we move forward over the next couple of years. Frequency, how often do you measure this? You don't want to measure it every day, probably. Some things might be good to measure monthly, maybe such as number of incidents, change hours, those kinds of things. Other things make sense to do quarterly, and some things you simply do them once a year. That's part of your design. The direction, or what is good? Is it good, the lowest possible value, or is it the highest? So that direction in the indicators, one important aspect, 10 is good, 1 is bad. So it's always 1 is bad and always 10 is good. So the direction, when you take your raw score, so if it's something like incidents, you want to minimize that. So the application with the least number of incidents is going to have a 10. The application with the most across whatever period is going to have a 1. So all this direction does is it addresses how the indicator score is calculated. Targeted min and max, that's the high-low thresholds to throw out outliers. That way you don't get skewed by somebody that has just something off the charts. And then application scoring profile, that's that single score configuration built out of a set of indicators. And it'll give you that single score. Each indicator gets a weight that it contributes. Some result key concepts, and we'll go look at the table if we have time today. We should have plenty of time. But the application weight, that's your raw score. So if you're counting number of incidents, that's going to be the number of incidents across that period. If you're looking at business value, for example, that is going to be the score that your application gets for the business value questions. APM indicator in assessments is the equivalent to an assessment metric category. So in assessments, we call it a metric type that has categories in it, metric categories, and the questions are called metrics. So a category might have 1 to 10, 20, however many metrics. Those get summed up, their values get summed up, and the category gets a value. An APM indicator, when you're using the assessment data source, is going to look at that category value. Normalized value. So this is that 1 to 10 based on application weight. You'll see I put the calculation in here. So normalized values, app weight minus the min weight over the max weight minus the min weight. It's where you are. So you take of your whole application inventory that's being scored by this indicator, it takes that, it keeps track of the highest and lowest. That's your min and your max. And that thresholds, mind you, can affect that. So if you had outliers, that's where you put the thresholds in there. But then you take, where's the app in that scale? Where's the app's raw score in that scale? Gives me a 1 to 10 value. If the direction is set to minimize, we just reverse it so that 10 is good, 1 is bad. The indicator score. So an indicator is tied into a scoring profile. So that scoring profile has a weight. How much does this indicator's value contribute to the overall score? So that is how it's calculated. So normalized value times the indicator weight from the profile divided by the total weights of the profile. So it just gives you that percentage. We actually capture that for efficiency and performance. Physical period, what period are we measuring? Months, quarters, years? And target minimum max, we talked about that. That's that thresholds to keep the outliers out. And then the total weight, that's used in calculating the part of the calculation, that's the total weight across all of the apps being evaluated. So what do we do with these things? Well, this is not the only place, but probably the most popular is the bubble chart. You can filter by some key things. Category and business capability are the two that I recommend the very most. And of course, physical period. And you can use different X by Y. Here we're showing technical risk versus business value, effectively Gartner time model. And we're showing, and then the size of the bubble would be a third metric. So we get 3 dimensions here. In this case, tech risk, business value, and maybe TCO for the bubble size. You also have a list view. This is configurable. The X by Y by Z, you can configure using the bubble chart configurations, just like you did in the old APM home. These are still valid. There are some things don't work. Coloring is still done by plan disposition in the new one. The old one, you could specify the color depending upon the quadrant that it fell in. There has been an ask to allow for different sort of coloring. And then also the other thing you can select is what are you measuring in the Z-axis or in this bubble size? Is it TCO? Is it something else? So we want to talk about the types of indicators and run through them real quick so you're familiar with how you can build these different indicators. This first one is anatomy of an assessment indicator. Data source is assessments. We're going to maximize it. We pick the metric type, that's the assessment. We pick the metric category, remember, that's where the score is actually coming from. And if per application, if you have one application, it's got 3 different business value assessments within the physical period, which is being evaluated, say a quarter or a month or whatever it might be. This one, the frequency is set up for a quarter. So if I have multiple business value assessments, it's going to average their values. Pretty simple and straightforward. The assessment part can get kind of tricky. We're going to have information up on the community about that. Probably a little too deep to cover today, but we'll see. If you got questions, ask them in the Q&A section here in a moment. Query condition. This is maybe one of the simplest ones. We specify what table we're going to look at. We're evaluating business applications. So most likely you're going to look at the business application table and you're going to aggregate on some sort of field. So in this case, usage, we're aggregating on active user count. We're going to sum it up. We're going to group by the SysID, meaning the ID of the business app, and that's what we pass on. So group by always has to be something that's a SysID. If we picked another table to do this, then we would have to pick in this group by, we have to pick the column that represents a business application. To evaluate business applications, we have to group our counts by it. So if we had some sort of table associated to business application, maybe TCO might be a way of doing it or something, we would have the TCO table, but we pick the BizApp table. Consolidation. If we had multiple values again, what do? We average it. If we need to consolidate, if a series of records are being consolidated, we might have to specify, what's the date field that we're going to use to see whether or not it fits within this physical period. So that's a query condition indicator. Performance analytics. If you've got performance analytics already configured, maybe some of the stuff that's tied in digital portfolio management, you could roll it into an indicator. So we've got source, performance analytics, the performance analytics indicator, and what breakdown are we using? And should be business application. And then if there are multiple records, what are we going to do? In this case, we want to sum it up. It's change hours that we're doing. And in this case, we want to minimize. Next, this is the powerful one. You can do anything you imagine, but you just got to write the script. So we'll have some examples in a few weeks up on the community site, so you can see them. There's already a dozen or more examples in the system out of the box. So the source, custom script, consolidation, in this case, we want to average it, could be somewhat, it depends upon what you want to do. The script, you see here at the top in this example, the script is returning a JSON object that has a single array in it called applications. The array has an object that has app ID, that's got the sys ID of the application and the number that you calculate. Super simple. That's what you return to the system. So the way ServiceNow scripting works is it's going to get called. There's actually some parameters passed in, the start date and end dates. So you can use those dates to evaluate your records. So if you're out fetching just say incidents or you're fetching problems, you can filter your results that you're going to count or you're going to evaluate by the start and end date. And so that gives you the filter. You return this JSON object and then the system does the rest for you. And then finally, indicators indicator. This, as I said, it's only one layer. One of the things that we've got a request for is having a hierarchy of indicators so that you could keep nesting them to multiple levels. But right now we can only do one level. So here are the children, and we sum up their values, average, whatever makes sense. And it runs these first, then it generates its values. So this one in this example is just a overall operational metric. So we're looking at changes, problems, and incidents in this case. Bringing it all together into a score, this is a scoring profile. So this is the default one. Everything is thrown in there, 14 of them. You want to edit this when you go and start looking at going into production or something. Use the ones that are working, take the ones out that are not working. There's no use running them and having empty values and that sort of thing. So the indicator, is it used in the CI score calculation? You could actually have it run the indicator and not use it in the CI score calculation. Seems a little odd, but maybe you want to have some of these indicators available for other purposes. It's not all just about the score. It can be other kinds of measurements, other kinds of evaluations. So it makes it flexible. And the nice thing here, you got a nice button to go force all of the indicators to run. So there is a job that will do it for you. It runs every day and it looks to see, are we on a boundary, month boundary, or a quarterly boundary? And it'll go run everything that is valid to run at that moment for the specified physical period. But what if you want to regenerate, maybe something didn't go right, or you just introduced a new indicator. You can tell it to regenerate, you pick what physical period, and off it goes. And then finally, the weight. So here's that weight that we were talking about when we calculate the indicator score. That's that contribution. So this weight is passed down. So think about how that's being handled. If you have multiple scoring profiles and an indicator's in both, there's going to be some mix. Which profile is it using? So when you run this, if you run it directly from the profile, we know what the profile is. But if we have multiple profiles, what can happen is that indicator is going to flip between the weightage of the two different profiles, and so have a different weight. What I'm saying is that you have to consider the fact that you have multiple profiles using a single indicator and you have to accommodate for that. You might have to clone that indicator so that it's unique to a particular profile. Just something to think about and consider as you do your design. And that's it for the presentation. What we really want to do now is go live. We want to talk about some of the questions. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts on where can we take this? What can we do to improve this facility and you know, make your lives better and your APM program more powerful. So we can open it up. Justin, Rob, if you guys want to ring in, Shawan, if we have somebody, if you want to, you know, raise your hand, do let us know and we'll unmute you and we can have a discussion.
Hey, Mark, there was one question that came in. It was kind of a three-part question. It's in the answered portion of the Q&A, but I'm wondering if you wanted to weigh in. I did my best to try to answer it, but I think you might have a perspective that that might be helpful.
Sure.
The one from Miklos.
Let me see if I can pull that up.
We have a couple new ones that have come in too.
All right. We use another tool for application portfolio, Lean IX, and import portfolio with many selected attributes into ServiceNow. Do you know SAP Lean? I know of Lean IX. Yes, we are aware of it. What is the major strength of APM over competitors? So this is not really an indicator question, but I will tell you, we have a built-in facility for measuring and doing rationalization. We have direct connectivity all in one platform to not only the strategic world with strategic portfolio management, strategic planning, OKRs, every form of execution can be managed. We also have that connection to the whole rest of the platform. Think back to that original picture, the service graph. We're connected, we're a part of it. So none of our competitors have that. To me, that's why APM belongs where it is here in ServiceNow. How to measure the added value of a tool like APM from your point of view is the point is things are not disconnected. We tend to build silos by having a tool for this and a tool for that. We actually have a picture. I don't have it quickly available, but you think of it, you've got half a dozen different tools all disconnected and you're trying to stitch them all together to paint a picture of the enterprise. As enterprise architecture, you need everything at your fingertips. Bringing the platform together and being able to understand from the strategic and the abstract all the way to the physical plug on the wall on the floor of a data center, running a server, having that visibility top to bottom. That's not something you're going to get in a disconnected tool. So, Andy, you said, you know, subjective metrics. You've got to take in mind, especially for some applications, if you're thinking about retiring, what about customer sat? What about business value, technical fit? So those kinds of things can be pretty important. So is it safe to assume there's no benefit of having used the CI score calculation if we're not using multiple scoring profile?
So, Mark, isn't the CI score calculation almost an aggregate of the different indicator scores of a business application, so that you're bringing several different qualities of a business application together into a single score? So,
yeah, it is. And the reason we allow different profiles, you might score your cloud-based or SaaS applications differently than you score your data center on-premise applications. That's the reason allowing different profiles, so you really can get an apples to apples comparison, but that single score is valuable. So I would say there is a benefit to using it. That's the whole point, is you had the individual metrics of different contexts, and then you also have this view of a single score where you can quickly say, this one's good, that one's bad.
Hmm.
It's all about in helping, and not, it's driving rationalization, but really it's just aiding rationalization.
Well, the only way you can weight those different indicators is through that scoring profile. So there are certain things that you might be taking, like TCO might be more important than customer satisfaction potentially. So then you want to weight that particular indicator as more important than the others, and the only way to do that is via that scoring profile.
Yeah, you must have, and let's be clear about this. In order for an indicator to work, it has to be a member of at least one profile.
Yep.
So
That was really
Suresh
helpful.
and
Thanks
Etta
also so
both
much.
had questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think that was basically my question. This is Nil. I think that definitely helps me to understand the real benefit of multiple scoring profiles. So really appreciate that.
Excellent. So we got Etta and Suresh. If you guys, I don't know if somebody can take them off mute. Can we unmute?
Yeah, I think they are. They
Okay.
have talking permitted. Go ahead.
Hi, Mark, this is Etta. So
Hey, Etta.
question along the lines of the multiple profiles. So one of the things that I'm shifting everybody towards is kind of capability, business capability type planning. And I want to be able to use those indicators. But so if we use that kind of as a primary, what would be then the reasoning for using the business application profiles? Like what would be that combination? Or is it one or the other, or is just going to
No,
depend?
they're two separate things, and
Correct.
when I didn't speak directly on the capability profile only allows a single profile for the capability score, so you can't have multiple for capabilities, whereas you can on the business application. But imagine the business application scores that might be rolled up in your tech and made a part of your technology scoring business capability. To me, that makes good sense. The tech, you evaluate capabilities traditionally on people, process, and technology. My tech score could include the supporting business applications contribution to that.
I
Does
like
that make
that.
sense?
Yes. You kind
So
of get the best of both worlds.
exactly, and when you build an assessment, I don't know if everybody knows this, when you build an assessment, you can have metrics in that assessment that come from just calculations from script. So it isn't just questions. So an assessment can literally be a mix of both. So you could do your app scores. Your app scores could be a contributing part of the technology assessment for your biz capabilities, and you line it up by that.
Okay, great.
Ali, you've got technology rationalization. Tech rationalization really in APM, what we're concerned with is the tech risk. There's not a indicator framework. You could, in theory, do some sort of indicator or a performance analytics, but asset management tends to own the individual technologies, software products, hardware models, software models, all of that. There's not really a rationalization over there, but it's feasible that you could construct some sort of a technology rationalization, I suppose. But the indicators won't let you target specific technologies. I think what you're asking for, maybe, I'm thinking in terms of TRM. So we've talked about TRM for many of you. Technology reference model, that's your technology standards. One of the asks that we've got for enhancements is ability to run indicators against that technology standards and how well are we doing? How, is that way you could do rationalization with them. So I
Thank
guess,
you.
the short answer on tech rationalization is, other than risk, we don't do a lot right now.
And that risk becomes the, sorry, Mark, the
Uh,
risk becomes one of the indicators within the app rat world. Yeah.
Yes, there is absolutely. It does become one of the risks. It is. So we figure out what you're using. We also figure out technical debts, where you're using non-standard, and then we evaluate the risk. So a application service that has multiple risks as opposed to another application service that only has one risk is going to get a worse score. And then it all adds up. So it kind of rolls up to the business application.
Got it. Thanks, Mark.
And Suresh, do you still have a question? Anything else? Anybody? Rob, Justin, you guys have something you want to share?
I would just say there is some good guidance out there, and I think, Mark, you've posted this in community as far as if you want to start out with just the subjective assessment surveys, you'll probably notice that our out-of-the-box questions don't gather too much, but I think you've got some good examples out on community of a good starting point for some I guess more valuable questions that could be used within those assessment surveys.
Yeah, so this is that article that I was talking about. And you see, we talk about what's out of the box, some of the old ones that are still out there. But when it gets to the assessments, I give you some questions. So these, use them if you like them. If you got some others, absolutely, let us know. So Suresh, how do you classify the application category and application category group? Those traditionally, the intention is that's the technical function. Is this a BI tool? Is this a general ledger application? Is this a customer relationship application? So technical function or technical capability is how we would typically use application category. There's a lot of other ways that people are doing it, so it's not written in stone, so to speak. But the thing I want to point out is business capabilities are what your company does. Having a notion of technical function is also important. That way, if nothing else, I've got 20 BI tools. I need to gather them all together. How do I do that? I put them all under the BI tool category because that's really what it does. I got Tableau, I got Cognos, I've got Power BI. Can I get rid of one of these? And that's kind of the play on it. So hopefully that helps. Anything else? And I'll let y'all speak if you have something.
Yeah. So, Mark, I like your approach of, as you start this journey, evaluate, if assessment-based indicators can surface some initial value. And then as you start to think about how you can start adopting data-driven indicators, whether they're query-driven or coming from performance analytics, another great starting point would be assess where you are in your CSDM journey, because in the SPM APM product unit, are using CSDM as that model to enable automated indicators to allow you to surface performance metrics of your application landscape into APM. And we offer several different services to help assess where you are on your CSDM journey, to help get you started, to help further mature it, as well as content within our community and our success center, which can help support the success of that journey and enable you to adopt additional data-driven indicator capabilities.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin. And Eddie, you made a point of a working example. We've got a little bit of time, so let's bring up a system and actually look at a working example. Bear with me one moment while I log in. So I'm going to use actually just one of the out of the box so that we can see how it works. To get to the indicators, you're going to go to Administration, Application Indicators, and here's that list of out of the box indicators. In this case, I'm going to do business value. I'm just going to do an assessment. So here's the metric type, that's the assessment. Here's the metric category. And we'll go to the category and take a look at it. Well, notice that this one's been run because we see this accessible records. Here is why we give you a list of questions, because out of the box, we only have one question. So this one was assigned to system administrator to run it. What I'm going to do is go back to the indicator and use the indicator facility. So what happens is first the assessments have to run. Another important fact around the assessment ones, when I generate these assessments and it launches an assessment instance, it has to be complete. In fact, all of the assessment, the individual assessments that are assigned, they have to be complete or canceled for the assessment instance to be complete, and for this indicator to go actually grab the values. So if you run your assessments, but you don't finish all of them, and you try running the indicator and don't get values, first thing you want to check is your assessment instances. So here, I'm going to generate some assessments. I'm going to Able Tutor, I'm just going to pick his applications. So here I've got 9 records, and I'm going to, rather than a user group, I'm going to do it by user field. I'm going to select the field, IT app owner, which is the same thing I'm doing up here, and I'm going to send out the assessments. So now I impersonate Able. And actually, before I do that, I want to go back. I'm at the indicator right now. If I generate indicator score for FY24, and I try to do it for, we're in Q2, mine's configured, so this is still Q2 for this system. If I try to run it, I should not get any values. If I go to the scores, and let me open another tab actually. So we go look at the indicator scores. So, 24 Q2, show matching. This is some bad demo data, get rid of that. And actually, I'm just going to group by the indicator. And you see there's no business value out there. None of them were generated. So this is broken data. This is due to the fact that some old total cost of ownership indicators are there. So this is a data bug in my system. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to impersonate Abel. Abel's got a set of assessments out there. So down here in self-service, business value. So I'm going to just go in and rate everything. Whoops, this one. So I've completed it. I now go back to sysadmin. I go back to my indicator. I can now individually, I could go to the profile and regenerate everything, or I can just individually regenerate it for FYQ2, FY24 Q2. So these are done asynchronously. It can take a little bit. There we go, business value. And there you see it. So whether it's here, the data source was a score on those categories. If it was total cost of ownership or something else, that would, it would still look the same. We're going to get a normalized value, which is based upon the range where this falls in. So I rated APM rather high, so it got the highest score. Salesforce got the lowest score. So any other questions, comments? I hope that helps. Justin, Rob, Joanne, y'all have anything?
No, I just want to compliment you on being able to give that demo on the fly. Very good.
No, Mark's the man.
So I saw a question, can we customize that assessment? Yes, that's the whole point is those are, do you recommend this application? It's just silly. The application, these assessments need to be configured. And in fact, what I like to do, and we don't have time for it today, but we will have an example up on the community as soon as we put it together. Take your assessment questions, put them together in a single assessment, send that to your IT owners or your business owners, let them do all of the categories, and then you have a separate indicator for each category, you pull your values. But one assessment, not 10 assessments. If you do that, they'll hate you. So keep it down to one assessment if you can, and we'll have an example up on community for you guys on how to do that and put it together. All right. Anything else?
I think, Mark, we're all good. We don't have any open questions. We don't have any hands up. So I think, yeah, we are good for today.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today. And if you have ideas for metrics that we don't have out of the box and you'd love to see it, let us know. Please, tell us what you need. We're always looking for ways to improve. And thank you. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending upon where you are. And we look forward to seeing you again next time.